Hello and welcome to another Magic 2015 gameplay. As you may have noticed, recently the game got another small DLC, including blue cards, white cards and artifact cards, and today's Sultai Selfmill deck features one of those cards, and that is Laboratory Maniac, a very interesting alternate win condition, and in a deck that's trying to mill itself and draws a ton of cards. The Laboratory Maniac can be a pretty nice alternate win condition that the opponent might not see coming right away. So if they don't have a removal spell for the Maniac and you're nearing the end of your library, this can win the game out of nowhere. So let's take a look at the entire deck. We are a blue, black, green base graveyard deck, and we have a few ways to win the game. The Maniac is actually not the main win condition because it does require a lot of setup. Rather, we are trying to abuse spider spawning yet again, which most of you will be familiar with at this point. So just a very powerful card that even can be cast from the graveyard thanks to flashback. And if we're trying to mill ourselves, put a lot of cards in our own graveyard, we will be able to generate a ton of spider tokens and maybe even win a turn later. Then we also have Nemesis of Mortals as a win condition, but this is sort of in the deck as a distraction almost. Some decks just can't deal with a 10/10 creature and they will die to it, but usually this is just to buy some time, maybe distract the opponent, make him use removal on it, so we can further our game plan of casting a big spider spawning, or maybe even setting up a Laboratory Maniac win. And then we've also got Species Gorger, which is an addition we get by playing blue as well. And he works very nicely with all our cheap green and black creatures that are in the deck. As you see, our curve is very heavy on the 2-drops, so the Species Gorger fits nicely in this deck, so it's not a huge cost to return creatures and having to replay them. So these are our main win conditions besides the Maniac. So how do we start milling ourselves? Well, we've got Hedron Crab in blue, which mills 3 whenever we play a land. So this can go out of hand very quickly, and if you have one early in the game, it's almost going to mill half your deck by the end of the game. So that's very useful. And then we also have the Necromancer's Assistant to mill ourselves. Just a pretty good card that can trade up sometimes. And we've also got Satyr Wayfinder, which also finds us some lands and can fix our mana base a bit. So these are all cards we would like to, the Wayfinder and the Assistant are cards we would like to return to our hand with Species Gorger so we can replay them and mill ourselves again. And we also have Elvish Visionary just to draw a card, which we can also return with the Species Gorger. And then we've got a few extra cards here. You've got Think Twice that can just draw a card, and we can also flash it back, so if it gets milled we can still get some value out of it. And this also works nicely with the Laboratory Maniac win condition, so you can play the Maniac on your turn, and then if your library is empty on the same turn you can cast a Think Twice or flash it back and win the game out of nowhere. Then we've also got Brain Maggot for some interaction, because we're not running any removal spells, so we can be weak to cards like Flyers early on, or just cards like Anger of the Gods that can wipe our board, and so on. So having some interaction is good, and if we don't like what we exile, then it's later in the game, we can always return the Brain Maggot with the Gorger and maybe exile something else. So we do have that option. Then we also have Gravebore Muse for some additional card draw. But we do have to be careful that we don't kill ourselves, because we don't have any ways to gain life. But drawing cards and milling is all reducing the size of our library, so that all works towards the same goal. And then finally, my last card is Gravedigger, just so we can return, let's say, a Laboratory Maniac from the graveyard if we milled both of them. But of course, if we also mill the Gravedigger, that doesn't help. But it's just an additional, like, flexible card in this deck. And I also considered a card like Archaeomancer for the same slot, which can return an instant or sorcery instead, but the double blue in the casting cost was what was the problem there. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. So yeah, the double blue is sort of a problem in this deck, where the blue is only a splash, and the card it would return is just like spider spawning, so it can, instead of having to just flash it back, it could return it so we can cast it and then flash it back, but that seemed a little bit like a win more situation that wasn't really necessary, so I went with the Gravedigger instead. So we're not running any super expensive cards in this deck, and we're also not running any ramp cards. We just have the Wayfinder for the fixing. For our mana base, we are running all the gates in the Sultai colors, so blue, black and green, and then 5 forests, 5 swamps and 2 islands. Alright, let's see what this deck can do. Alright, let's take a look at our opener. Only 1 land, no green, and we're on the play, so easy mulligan. And this is an easy keep. We have the turn 1 Hedron Crab even, and next turn we can go Wayfinder, and then probably Guildgate into Visionary. So we will mill ourselves quite a bit here, unless our opponent has early removal for the crab, but in green that seems unlikely. Alright, and spider spawning. So this is pretty much the ideal opening hand. Let's play a Wayfinder. Yep. And grab... I don't think we need double blue, so might as well get the untapped source. And pause the turn. Let's see what the opponent's up to. Green-white. Wayfinder, alright. Let's see if he's just 2 colors or maybe more. It looks like at least 3 colors. And it looks like a mid-range deck to me. Alright. Yeah, I think we can play the Visionary here and play the gates. I don't think the sequencing matters here. Another spider spawning, alright, don't mind that. And we did mill a Think Twice that we can flash back at some point, and another spider spawning, so we're just missing the critical mass of creatures here to really get going, and I'm gonna offer the trade here, since I would like this Wayfinder to hit the graveyard, and on the way back we can block. Not sure if I'm gonna block with the crab or with the Visionary here, probably the Visionary. Alright, so I don't like... Alright, I don't mind the Cultivate. What I don't want to see here is our opponent using removal on the Hedron Crab. And from playing from the other side, often the Hedron Crab doesn't seem like a big threat, but it's actually the engine that's fueling this deck, so taking it out can be a wise decision. So it looks like our opponent's 4 colors here at least. And let's go ahead and play the Visionary, leaving up the black in case we draw something like a Brain Maggot, which we would like to cast. Instead it's another gate, so let's go ahead and attack with both. And then play our Guildgate. And then next turn we'll have to decide if we want to fire off a spider spawning or if we want to wait on it. So it looks like we milled at least 2 creatures here, so that's good. And Darksteel Ingots, our opponents are ramping quite a bit. Another Darksteel Ingot. So Anger of the Gods could be pretty bad for us if our opponent has that, because it would not only kill the engine, but also the spider tokens if we decide to cast them. So maybe casting the Nemesis here is a good compromise, since that means we're not going all in on the small creatures. So let's see, how do I do this? I think I start with attacking with all of them. If our opponent has an Anger, he probably blocks here. So this leads me to believe he does not have an Anger of the Gods, but I could be wrong. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna hedge a little bit here. So let's start by flashing back, and we do have the double green for Nemesis here. So we draw an Assistant, mill ourselves, and play a Giant Nemesis, which we can monstrous next turn, and pause a turn. So if our opponent does have the Anger of the Gods, then we still have this Nemesis left. If he wants to spend his turn to remove the Nemesis, then that's also good for us, because then we can just go for a Spider Spawning. Planar Cleansing, on the other hand, does get rid of everything, but now the Spider Spawning is just gonna dominate the board, so that's also fine. And yeah, now we don't have an engine on the board that can mill us, but we already went through half our deck. So yeah, let's just go ahead and cast this and play Guildgate, and then next turn we can either flash a Spider Spawning back or cast one from the hand. But this should be able to kill the opponent in 2 attacks, unless our opponent has another sweeper. A Runescar Demon is likely gonna look for one, so I don't think I'm gonna play another Spider Spawning here. So we do have to be careful that our opponent doesn't burn us out somehow, but we are still at 20. Let's see. I always misclick. We don't have any Think Twices left. We do have one in hand. So I think I start by just casting a Think Twice here. If we can find a Brain Maggot, that would be nice. So I think I'm just gonna flash this back and see if we hit it. We don't, so let's just go ahead and attack, and maybe leave back 1 spider in case our opponent does not have the Anger, but I don't know, maybe gain some life and then attacks us back. If our opponent doesn't have the sweeper, then attacking next turn is gonna be good enough. And we can play a tap land and pass the turn. Our opponent likely has the sweeper here. Yep, there it is. And now we can just play another Spider Spawning. This Garruk's Pack Leader is not gonna stop the spiders. So another attack puts us at 14. But our spiders have reach, so we can block next turn. And there's a Maniac. Interesting. I think we can start by playing out, or actually maybe just flashing back a Spider Spawning is better here, so we don't give the opponent the information that we have one in hand. And just play a Guildgate and see if this works. I will be blocking the Runescar Demon, at least with 1 spider. I'm not sure if I wanna... Alright, so our opponent's digging for another Anger of the Gods, looks like. Is he gonna find it? It would be pretty good here, as we would go down to 4 life and be forced to cast Spider Spawning, but looks like we got the job done here, so GG's. Drawing those early Spider Spawnings and the early Hedron Crab certainly helped us, but our opponent got a pretty good hand as well. So let's just go ahead and attack. And unless our opponent has a Fog, this this should get there. Alright, so let's move on to the next game, shall we? Alright, looks like we're up against the same opponent. Hopefully did not switch into a deck that hates us out. But yeah, this is an easy mulligan. And this is a reasonable keep. We are missing something like a Wayfinder or an Elvish Visionary for the early turns, but we do have a Hedron Crab that we can play next turn. So let's go for the green. opponent leads with Orzhov Guildgate, so could still be on the same deck. Another one, so maybe not. Maybe he's using the new life gain win alternate win condition. So let's play the crab, play green black, mill ourselves. The plan is still the same here. One creature, so not a great flip, but better than nothing. And swamp. Alright, so looks like a 2-color deck so far. And Think Twice is not a bad draw, but let's play the Guildgate and pass the turn with Think Twice up. We milled 2 more creatures, alright. And nothing from the opponent. If he has an Edict effect, he could get rid of our crab, but doesn't look like it. Alright, we draw Bray Maggot. That's useful. So we could play Bray Maggot and a gate, or we could go for the assistant, setting up a spider spawning for next turn. Given that our opponent just played this Golgari Guildgate, he might be stuck with like a Cultivate in hand. So maybe going for a Bray Maggot is worth it here. And I do think we have some time here to set up properly. Alright, there's a Cultivate I was suspecting, but he also has a Wayfinder, so we're not really gonna mana screw him too badly. So actually this Baneslayer Angel might actually be a bigger problem. Yeah, I think so. So let's just take that one and play a Guildgate and pass a turn. We hit some more creatures, which is good. And then next turn we probably just play the assistant first before firing off the spider spawning, but we can probably also play a Nemesis in the same turn. So there's a Cultivate, and this is probably a Wayfinder. So our opponent's no longer mana screwed. But he is going to start gaining a lot of life in the coming turns. Milled 2 Angelica Chords, that's bad for him. Alright, and Visionary. So this should just cost 2, yep. So we can cast this guy and then play an assistant. And now our graveyard is pretty full, so now spider spawning is gonna be pretty big. About 10 creatures, I would say. So our opponent's gonna go to 27 at least this turn. Plaka Worm would be a problem, since the trample can go over our spiders. Looks like it's not gonna be the case this turn. So it looks like just Ceruli Gatekeepers. But the Nemesis is also gonna do a lot of work, I think. It's gonna at least require a chum block every turn from now on. Alright, interesting. Our opponent did not play the Ceruli Gatekeepers, so maybe wants to wait on an enchantment like Angelica Chord or the other one. Let's see. Certainly gonna play the land first, so we mill ourselves some more. Alright, found two Think Twices already. So here I'm actually just going to attack with... I think I'm okay with both, since otherwise this guy's not doing much. So if your opponent chumps, then there's no need to pump, which means we can freely go for a spider spawning here. So yeah, let's just go for it. And hopefully your opponent's not running planar cleansings in his list. And Yep, looks like he does. But we do have another spider spawning, so it's not all bad. Now we have some extra creatures in the yard. So we can actually... we could play Wayfinder, look for an untapped land, and then go for spider spawning. Seems a little risky. Maybe unnecessary even. But I think I'm just gonna go for it. Just because. I don't advise you to do the same. And we did get rewarded. So, all good. Alright, this looks nice and symmetrical. Apart from this guy. And let's see if he has another sweeper. Just a Baneslayer, which he did get back because our Brain Maggot died. So that's gonna be slightly annoying, but I think we can overpower it with all our spiders here. Alright, and let's just attack with everyone. And flashback another spider spawning. Which we do have exactly enough mana for. So opponent's gonna lose 8 life here. Go down to 16. Yep, and flashback another one. And that should be a lethal next turn, I think. But our opponent does have another Gatekeepers, I believe. Yep, so 23 plus another 5 minus 3. So 28 minus plus 3, 20, 31. So this is not lethal, but I'm gonna attack anyways. And I don't think there's a need to flashback another spider spawning here, since the only thing we can really lose to is another planar cleansing. So let's see, we have Think Twices we can cast, another Wayfinder. Think I'll lead with the Wayfinder, so we hit our land drop. Guildgate, and let's cast a Think Twice in case we draw a Hedron Crab before we play the land. It's a Visionary instead, so let's pause the turn with Think Twice available, maybe bluff a counterspell, who knows. But there's no need to play it main phase. Missionary just to gain some life. And is gonna attack probably. Nope, no attack. And Brain Maggot, but our opponent's empty-handed, so that's gonna be GG. And let's attack with everyone. Alright, so we got there twice in a row against the same opponent, but this time on a different deck. But yeah, the Abzan Livegain archetype certainly got a nice addition with the expansion. If you want, I can show you the card I'm talking about, in case you have not seen it yet. Let's see here, card collection. It's a white card, a 6-drop. Where is it? Here he is, Felidar Sovereign. A 6 mana 4/6 Vigilance Lifelink, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. So pretty powerful. It's a good alternate win condition, so you don't have to rely on cards like Angelic Accord or the other card that escapes me. What's it called again? I should know these things. Sanguine Bond. So that's the other card that is run often in the Abzan Livegain decks. So now you can just gain some life early on with whatever cards you have, and then play a Sovereign, which also has lifelink, so he works towards the win condition as well. and then just win the game like that. No need to attack the opponent really. So yeah, it's a pretty cool addition. And next to it is Captain of the Watch, which is also a new addition. So yeah, could maybe enable some new token strategies or just some enter the battlefield shenanigans, who knows. Alright, so let's move on to the next game, shall we? Alright, let's take a look at our opener, which looks alright to me. We have Hedron Crab plus Wayfinder, all the colors we need, and some powerful things down the line. So yep, that's a keep. All we need to find now is a spider spawning or a millet and have enough lands to cast it. Opponent plays Elite Vanguard, so we're up against another aggressive deck here, which can be certainly a problem for this deck. So let's go ahead and play the Dimir Guildgate, pause the turn. And next turn we have to decide if we want to play the Hedron Crab first, take 2, and then play the Wayfinder next turn, or if we want to play the Wayfinder first and maybe discourage an attack. Let's see if the opponent has a second land here. Or let's see if he's playing a deck that goes wide with a lot of tokens, or a deck that goes tall with a lot of enchantments. Could be either one. I think the deck that goes wide is more of a problem early on. Yes, I am, sir. So second white source. And this could be a Raise the Alarm. So just an attack. So yeah, I think our opponent's trying to go wide rather than tall here. If he's gonna pause a turn, that's certainly gonna be a Raise the Alarm. Nope, instead it's another Elite Vanguard. And a Selfless Cathar that can sacrifice himself next turn to prevent the trade. Alright, so nice to see someone watching my videos. Alright, so we can play the Bray Maggot because Triplicate Spirits might be a problem for us. If he has land into Triplicate Spirits here, then we're pretty dead. Let's see. Yeah, I think this may be the play. And then we can do damage control next turn and just play a bunch of chum blockers. Alright, let's get rid of... So we can play the Banisher Priest next turn, exiling the Bray Maggot if we don't take it. Otherwise he has a Raise the Alarm. With the Cathar in play, that's kind of a problem. I think it's close, but I think I'll go for the Banisher Priest here. And pause the turn. Now the question is, do we block or do we just take it here? If he plays the Raise the Alarm next turn, he has, let's see, 6, 7 power in play. Then he can sack the Selfless Cathar next turn, and we would be taking quite a beating. So just an attack with those two. Yeah, actually, I'm okay trading. Given that I have this other Bray Maggot, and if he activates the Cathar here, that would be great. Alright, that's good. So he didn't get to activate it with the Raise the Alarm in play, and now he can't even play another spell this turn. So I think that was a good trade for us. And here I will just play the Wayfinder looking for more lands. Too bad we didn't get to play the Hedron Crab earlier, but so it goes. Yeah, let's pause the turn. And if our opponent uses the Banisher Priest here, that's totally fine. We'll take 4 down to 11, and then we hopefully just play 2 Visionaries, or even a Bray Maggot exiling the Raise the Alarm. So the 2/2 is actually more relevant than the ability of exiling creature, I think, because a 2/2 does not trade for one of our creatures at the moment. Alright, land is good. So I think we go Bray Maggot, exile Raise the Alarm, see what the opponent's last card is. And then play a Visionary that can trade Divine Verdict. Well, it's good to know about, but I think the Raise the Alarm is a bigger problem at the moment. And let's just play Visionary. Trade with one of the Elite Vanguards. If he plays the Verdict, that's fine. Next turn we'll have a lot more blockers available. And at the moment I'm not planning on using the Bray Maggots to block. So yeah, we just have to hope our opponent does not top deck some sort of Anthem effect. Alright, so just an attack with the Banisher Priest is totally fine, not blocking with a Verdict in our opponent's hand. But alright, Triplicate Spirits, yeah, that's a problem. So that's a card we did not want to see, but now it's just gonna kill us in a few turns. We do have a Spider spawning in the yard, but we're nowhere close to getting 7 mana in time to have the blockers out, because this turn we have a 5th land, attack down to at least 6. Then 6th land, we get attacked, maybe 7th land and stabilize, but that seems very ambitious. We don't have any Wayfinders in hand here to really stabilize. So, this is a tough spot. I think we just have to... Could play the Gravedigger, but that doesn't really trade very well. So maybe just play Visionary and hope to top deck a Spider spawning that we can cast if we also draw another land. Alright, Wayfinder is certainly gonna help. And we don't even have that many creatures in the graveyard yet. So let's just grab a Gate here and play it. And no attacks. Does he have another good card here? Looks like he doesn't. So attacks. I would be totally fine with him only attacking with the spirits. Alright, so we don't have to trade off anything else. So now we just have to find a spider spawning and we're good. Graveborn Muse. That might actually give us the highest chance of finding these spider spawning, but it's also just gonna kill us because opponent attacks us, we go down to 3 life, and then a few turns later we die to our own Graveborn Muse, although we could return it with the Species Gorger, so there's that. We have a Think Twice in the graveyard. But yeah, actually the Think Twice is just gonna draw us the same amount as Graveborn Muse if we wanna find the spider spawning next turn. So it's probably not even worth it to play the Graveborn Muse other than having an extra blocker. But then we might as well play the Hedron Crabs. So yeah, let's just flash back the Think Twice here. Seder Wayfinder, alright. Let's go for him. So if we actually hit a land, yeah, there's a spider spawning, so if we hit an untapped land next turn, we might actually be able to flash one back. So yeah, it's all coming down to the last turn if the opponent has nothing, because if he has pretty much any pump spell here, we're dead on the spot. Is he gonna attack with everyone or just the spirits? We know he has the Verdict. Alright, just the spirits. That's fine. We can't block. We're still alive. That's good. And does he have a follow-up? No. Alright. And there's a land. Are we doing it? We might be. No huge spider spawning, but spider spawning nonetheless. And no attacks at the moment. So yeah, yet again, if he has an Anthem effect, we might be in trouble. But so far it looks like it doesn't have one. Maybe last turn we could have attacked with our creatures to try and trade them off to get more spiders. That might actually have been a better play. Like before playing our 7th land, just sending in with these 4, and yeah, actually that's pretty risky. If he doesn't block, then we have less blockers, and an Alpha Strike could maybe kill us then. So yeah, I don't think that was actually a good idea after all. So I don't think he has the Anthem effect here, otherwise we would have seen it by now. And please no attacks. Alright. So now that we are not gonna die anytime soon, we have another spider spawning in the yard. So now we have to just try and mill ourselves as much as possible. So maybe playing the Species Gorger accomplishes that. Would also like to draw some more lands. So maybe casting a Think Twice here to try and find a land is good. Nemesis of Mortals, not bad. Can start putting some pressure on the opponent. So we can play a Nemesis, play a Assistant as well. Alright, sounds like a plan. Not attacking quite yet here, as an end of turn Raise the Alarm could maybe surprise us. Alright, so we know our opponent has at least the Divine Verdict to kill our Nemesis here, and we mill another spider spawning. So we do have some supply here, and now you just need to mill more creatures in the graveyard so they become large enough so we can actually attack. Is this an end of turn raise? A reprisal instead, alright, that's totally fine. We also have a Gravedigger if we want to get him back, but I don't think we'll have to. Another land, so maybe our opponent's flooding out a little bit here. Passes a turn. Land would be good, alright, so now we can play 2 Hedron Crabs. And play a land. Mill ourselves. That looks like we hit some creatures and a Maniac as well. And let's see, we can play Gravedigger, leave up double green. So we can get back the Nemesis and cast it. I don't think we'll need the alternate win condition here, although it would be nice to show it on camera. Alright, so I think next turn we can flash back another spider spawning, which should be pretty large. Still not attacking. So yeah, let's hope to dodge an Anthem effect one more turn. What's under here? Satyr Wayfinder, right. And we are holding a Raise the Alarm. Opponent could also have the new card that was in the white DLC, which gives all soldiers +1/+1. So that's a soldier. Alright, just a Mentor of the Meek. But this could draw our opponent some cards now, so we'll have to try to close out the game as quickly as possible before the card advantage starts becoming a factor. Think twice. Let's see, we have 8 mana total, so we can't quite play Think Twice and Flashback Spider Spawning. But I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 creatures. That's not a ton actually. And our opponent did step out of the removal for the Nemesis, so I'm okay with sending the Nemesis, as well as maybe we can send the Assistant and hope to trade it. Attacking with the 1/1s doesn't make a ton of sense at this point, since our opponent can block with the 2/2s. So let's just attack like this. And let's see if he blocks. Does not. So we could actually activate the Nemesis here and wait maybe another turn on flashing back Spider Spawning. Don't hate that. And no reprisal, looks like. So we got in for a good chunk of damage. So let's see, we can play Species Gorger, but I would really like to hit a land drop here. So let's cast a Think Twice. Alright, there's our land drop. So we can play this, mill ourselves. And end of turn flashback Think Twice, which we have a couple of now. There's a second Laboratory Maniac. So now we're close to decking ourselves, so we have to be a little careful. So yeah, next turn I'm gonna definitely flashback a Spider Spawning and try to go for the kill next turn. Now that our opponent did drop down to 11. Still no attack, and end of turn, let's flash this back. Does our opponent have a response? A reprisal? Alright, that's fine. We're trying to go wide anyways. There's a land. So, let's see, do we mill ourselves for 6 is a question. Seems a little risky. If our opponent maybe has a fog, seems unlikely, but let's say he has a fog and we milled ourselves for 6, then maybe we could deck ourselves, I don't know. Maybe let's just mill ourselves for 3 and then the opponent for another 3. Alright. And now let's see if we want to attack first. Let's end with the Gravedigger and the Assistant. Alright, there's a block. And another block. That's good. And now we can finally flash this back. Where is it? Alright, so very close game. Still not out of it, but I think we're favored now. Let's see if the opponent has another relevant creature or spell. I don't expect a planar cleansing here. Baneslayer Angel certainly makes the math more complicated. Alright, so let's see, we have 14, we have 20 spiders. Our opponent's at 11, but a virtual 16 with the Baneslayer Angel. So I think, let's see, 16 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers. We have 25 power, so 16 plus another 6 is 22, so this actually should be lethal, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 25, 16, plus another 6. Yeah, this should just be lethal on board. And then we can still flash back the last spider spawning to make some more blockers after attacking, should something go wrong. So yeah, I think we got there. For 1 white he can maybe cast a Cloud Shift, but I think that's about it. So we draw land, but let's not mess around here and go for an all-out attack. Leave back the 2 crabs, and let's see if this works. Opponent does not get a whole lot of time here to decide his blockers, which I always find annoying when someone makes a big attack, but the attacks should be pretty clear. I'm wondering what our opponent has now. Maybe he has a God's Willing? Yeah, he could have a God's Willing. Alright, let's order blockers. Oh, yep, I see. So our opponent could have gone for a God's Willing, made the angel have protection from green and attacked. Alright, so a super close game there. I want to thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.